Greetings. This is recommendations to improve UVA Finance cybersecurity. 35%. But what does this percentage indicate? 35% of UVA Finance users was acceptable to phishing attempts. Today, we'll be discussing four topics: threat assessment, risk assessment, incident response plan, and security training program. These are ways that UVA will be able to successfully implement and execute and reduce cybersecurity attacks. Because all it takes is one user to click on a phishing email to indicate a cybersecurity breach. The threat assessment. There are a few threat assessments that we outlined while compiling this report. One will be spear phishing, which is one of the most common attack forms. This is done by social engineering and mostly done by email. Next will be ransomware. This is the most common for financial gain. This involves encrypting data and holding it until the ransom is paid. Next will be denial of service. This affects the user's ability to access servers or systems. And this is done by executing by flooding a network until servers crash. Next will be multi-platform attacks, known as roaming mantis. This is done by attacks on devices through numerous other devices and apps. And this is done by the stealing of login credentials used for multi-factor authentication. And next will be the logic bomb. This is a more internal attack, and this is done by software code which is activated and can cause damage to systems by deleting data or executing malicious attacks. Next, we'll move on to the risk assessment.
So next we're going to go over some risks with you and start off with small risks that have a low likelihood of occurring, but also having large impact to business operations. So the first risk we'd like to talk to you is subject to physical attack. So this involves the hacker attacking like the fiber optic cables, or just attacking the data center in general, since the data centers are mapped at UVA. And a mitigation strategy for this is investing in more security mechanisms. This can include investing in security personnel, cameras, and also biometric locks where servers are located. Also, another low risk is losing your work computer. And again, a mitigation strategy could be having a policy in place where you could track the stolen device through their IP address. Also having a policy in place where sensitive data can't be stored in the computer. And then also investing in full disk encryption. So some medium risks to be accounted for. So the first risk is networks aren't segmented. And a mitigation strategy for this is investing in more firewalls and IDS. And this was a medium risk just because a lot of UVA's networks are segmented, but there might be some that aren't. Also, another risk is users are compromised on the wireless network. And again, another mitigation strategy for this is having a policy in place to use VPN in public places like Starbucks. Another risk is reputation issues from a data breach. And a mitigation strategy would be to hire a legal team. Finally, another medium risk would be data loss from a ransomware attack. And a mitigation strategy for this would be to back up data regularly, recommended to do daily. And then finally, some high risks that can have significant impacts on business operations. So the first risk is not having any recent software patches. And a mitigation strategy for this would be to have routine monthly updates. In addition, another risk would be having your password stolen because the user has the same password for multiple accounts, and maybe like one of those accounts get breached, and then the hacker uses that same password to get into UVA's network. And a mitigation strategy for this would be to have a system in place where it doesn't allow any known passwords on the dark web because those passwords were compromised. And then another risk is having no segregation in the roles. And a mitigation strategy would be to enforce least privilege, where only where people that have the right roles, that people with specific roles have access to the data. And let's say, for example, like someone from marketing, they can't get into accounting, and the accounting person can't get into marketing data. Finally, another risk is employee phishing, and a mitigation strategy would be to enforce our recommended employee training program, which will be detailed more later on. So by employing our mitigation strategies, you can turn that frown, wait for it, upside down.
So moving along to our incident response plan. Before I start, I would like to suggest to get a more detailed insight on our incident response plan would be to check out the summary that was provided. But in conducting or creating this incident response plan, we use this framework and we use the 4 categories that they discussed, which are preparation, detection and analysis, containment and eradication and recovery, and post-incident activity. When creating our incident response plan, we included key people that were pivotal in the success of an incident response, and that would be our legal counsel for one, the CISO, a CIO, and a board of visitors, and the university president. And we have some other individuals as well, but since we currently are highlighting a university, we want to make sure our incident response plan was formatted in the way a university operates and their hierarchy. Now moving on to phishing data and analysis.
So UVA, in our analysis, we discovered that UVA Finance users were more vulnerable. So UVA Finance Department users clicked on links from phishing emails more. So 5% more within the UVA Finance compared to the rest of UVA, which is including the academic units and business units, so all the units combined. Also, we found out that UVA Finance users submitted data from the phishing emails sent more, and this was 4% more compared to all of the other UVA units. And then here's just some charts to demonstrate that last point made, basically saying that UVA Finance Department submitted data and clicked link more than campus-wide units. Also, twice as many UVA Finance employees use iPhones in the successful phishing attack. So approximately 42% of UVA Finance employees use an iPhone compared to only 22% of the rest of UVA, including, again, the academic and business units. Also, we discovered that all UVA units were most vulnerable in the morning. So the most popular time for UVA employees to click a link or submit data was between 6 in the morning and 9 in the morning. We also found out that UVA Finance were slightly more early birds. They were the highest amount of successful attacks. Clicking the link and submitting data was the highest 6 in the morning, and then second highest 7 in the morning. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I could wake up that early. So then here's some line charts just to give a better visualization. So the first line chart is campus-wide, including the academic and business units of users who clicked on a link and submitted data through each hour. And then here's basically the same line graph, but focusing more with the UVA Finance Department. And now we're going to be going into security awareness.
So to raise security awareness for our employees, we decided to design a security training program. First, we want to educate our employees about mindfulness when responding to a persuasive phishing email. This is to put a stronger emphasis on pausing and taking a break while responding to emails during those morning times. Second, we want to update policies to restrict email access within certain time frames. This is design rules to restrict access to internet or social media on a school advice or even off grounds using our school emails. During particular periods, since we have discovered lots of phishing attacks happen to people who clicked on test emails we sent out between 7 and 8 a.m. Third, we will set up mandatory interactive trainings such as setting up strong passwords. The program will give tips on how to better set up strong passwords for different user accounts, so multi-authentication factors should be implemented. Last but not least, we'll hold incentive program to reward people who do not fall for phishing attempts. We will set up a leadership board to find out who never clicked on phishing links and reward those people with some kind of gifts. And for those people who did fall for those phishing attempts, we're going to have to educate them on not to click on spam emails. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.